Pain is a curious thing, isn't it? It arrives uninvited, often catching us off guard, but its presence is undeniable. When someone cheats or hurts us, the immediate instinct is to react, to push back, or to make sense of the betrayal. But here's the thing: we don't need to fight the pain or push it away. The first and most profound act we can take is simply to acknowledge it. Let it exist. Let it breathe. Pain is not an enemy, it's a signal. It tells you that something within you has been touched deeply, perhaps wounded, perhaps awakened. But far too often, instead of acknowledging the pain, we let it take over. It becomes the story we tell ourselves repeatedly: I'm betrayed. I'm hurt. I'm broken. The pain starts to define us, coloring the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves. This, I believe, is where the real danger lies, not in the hurt itself, but in letting it shape who we think we are. So what do we do instead? We pause. We allow the pain to be there without giving it a throne to sit on. Feel the hurt, the anger, the sadness, feel it fully, but don't cling to it. Don't wrap it around yourself like a cloak of identity. You are not the betrayal. You are not the hurt. These are experiences passing through you like waves in the ocean. And just like waves, they rise, they crest, and they fall away. You see, we often think that acknowledging pain means wallowing in it, but that's not true at all. Acknowledgement is a quiet, powerful act. It's looking the pain in the eye and saying, I see you, I know you're here. It's not about fighting the pain or trying to fix it right away. It's about making space for it, allowing it to exist without letting it consume everything. When you do this, something remarkable happens. The pain begins to shift. It loses its sharp edges. It starts to soften. Why? Because you're no longer resisting it. You're no longer feeding it with anger or denial. Instead, you're allowing it to flow through you, and in doing so, you discover that you are so much bigger than the pain itself. It's tempting to let pain become a narrative, to replay the hurt over and over in your mind like a bad movie. But every time you do this, you give it power. You give it life. Instead, what if you simply observed it? Not as a story, but as a sensation in your body, as a moment in time that will pass. Sit with it, breathe into it, and remind yourself that this too is temporary. This doesn't mean you suppress the pain or pretend it doesn't hurt. It means you honor it without letting it take the wheel. Think of it like a storm. You don't stand in the middle of it screaming at the rain. You find shelter, you wait it out, and eventually the sky's clear. Acknowledging the pain is also about compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. It's about recognizing that being hurt doesn't make you weak or foolish, it makes you human. You loved, you trusted, you cared, and that's not something to regret. If anything, it's a sign of your courage, your capacity to open your heart. And while you sit with this pain, remember one vital truth: it does not define you. The betrayal, the hurt, the anger, they are not who you are. You are the awareness observing it all, the stillness beneath the chaos. You are the calm after the storm, the ocean beneath the waves. As you acknowledge the pain, you'll start to notice something else, a space opening up within you. A space where healing can begin, where new perspectives can emerge. This is the gift of acknowledgement. It frees you from the prison of resistance and allows you to move forward, not as someone broken, but as someone transformed. So when the pain comes, don't run from it, don't fight it. Sit with it. Let it be and let it pass. And in that stillness, you'll find something far greater than the hurt you'll find yourself. When someone cheats or hurts you, there's a natural impulse to confront them, to demand answers, or to expose their wrongs. It feels like the only way to regain some sense of control or to find closure. But let me ask you this: have you ever seen anger bring peace? Has retaliation ever truly healed a broken heart? The truth is, it hasn't and it won't. When you respond to betrayal with fury, you only deepen the wound both for yourself and for the one who hurt you. Anger feels powerful in the moment it rushes in, like a storm, filling you with adrenaline and the illusion of control. But anger is a double-edged sword. It doesn't cut only outward, it cuts deeply inward, too. What's truly powerful is restraint. Not suppression, not avoidance, but the conscious decision to step back, to breathe, and to choose silence over chaos. Silence isn't weakness. In fact, silence is one of the most profound responses you can offer. When you don't retaliate, you're saying, I won't lower myself to the same level. I value my peace too much to give it away. In the silence, you create space for yourself to process, to reflect, and to begin healing. When you don't immediately react, you prevent the situation from escalating further. You're not suppressing how you feel, you're choosing to pause so that your response, if one is needed, comes from clarity rather than from the heat of emotion. This pause, this silence, does something extraordinary. It allows you to see the situation for what it truly is. When emotions run high, they distort reality. Everything feels bigger, heavier, and more urgent than it really is. But in silence, you gain perspective. You start to see beyond the immediate hurt, beyond the betrayal. You see the other person not as an enemy, but as someone acting out of their own pain, confusion, or limitations. This doesn't mean you excuse their behavior. It doesn't mean you justify it or pretend it didn't hurt. It means you stop carrying their actions as if they define you. Their betrayal says more about them than it ever could about you. And in silence, you reclaim the narrative. You decide how you'll move forward, not based on their actions, but on your values and your integrity. Silence is also incredibly disarming. People expect a reaction. They anticipate anger, tears, or confrontation because that's what they've been conditioned to see. When you respond with silence, it unsettles them. It forces them to sit with their own actions without the distraction of your reaction. In that stillness, they may even begin to confront the weight of what they've done. But here's the most important thing about silence. It's not for them. It's for you. It's a way of saying, I refuse to let this situation control me. I refuse to let it rob me of my peace. Silence gives you the upper hand not over the other person, but over your own emotions. It reminds you that you are in charge of your own inner world, no matter what happens externally. As you sit in that silence, you'll discover something unexpected. You'll find strength. Not the kind of strength that needs to prove itself, but a quiet, unshakable strength that comes from knowing you can endure this. You can carry the weight of this pain without letting it define or destroy you. In the end, silence isn't about the absence of words. It's about presence, being fully present with yourself, with your emotions, and with the situation as it is. It's about recognizing that you don't need to respond to every insult, every betrayal, or every hurtful act. Sometimes the most profound response is no response at all. And in that silence, you remind yourself of who you are, not someone broken by this moment, but someone who is whole, steady, and unshakable. You reclaim your power not through words or actions, but through the simple, undeniable strength of being at peace with yourself. That, my friends, is where true freedom begins. When someone cheats or hurts you, it's tempting to get lost in the endless loop of why did they do this? What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Or didn't say the mind begins to spiral, searching for answers where there often aren't any. The truth is, asking why in moments of pain rarely brings clarity. Instead, it binds you to the hurt. The need to understand someone else's actions is a trap. You think that if you could just figure out their reasons, it might hurt less. But human behavior is rarely so simple. People act out of their own wounds, fears, and insecurities, many of which they may not even understand themselves. Expecting to find logic in someone else's chaos is like trying to draw a straight line in the sand during a storm. Instead of chasing answers that may never come, the real question to ask is, what do I do with this now? What do you do with the weight of betrayal? With the sting of hurtful words? With the absence of trust? Because while you can't control what someone else does, you have complete authority over how you respond to it. The first step is to shift the focus back to yourself. Often when someone hurts us, we instinctively focus outward on their actions, their motives, their flaws. But what if instead you turned inward? Not to blame yourself, but to ask, what is this teaching me? Pain, as unwelcome as it may be, is one of life's greatest teachers. It reveals where your boundaries are, where your strength lies. And where your strength lies and where your healing still needs attention. Perhaps this moment is an opportunity to re-examine what you've been tolerating. Have you been sacrificing your own needs to keep the peace? Have you been ignoring red flags because you hoped things would change? Pain has a way of stripping away the illusions we cling to, forcing us to confront what we may have been avoiding. But this isn't about self-blame. It's about self-awareness. There's a difference. Blame looks backward, keeping you stuck in regret and guilt. Awareness, on the other hand, is forward-moving. It's about saying, I see this now, and I can choose differently moving forward. Choosing differently often means creating space, not just physical space from the person who hurt you, but emotional space to breathe, reflect, and heal. This isn't easy. There's a part of you that may want to cling to them, to try to fix things, to make them see your worth. But remember, your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's recognition of it. Your value remains untouched and unshaken, no matter how someone else has treated you. So, creating space also means letting go of the need for closure. Closure is a concept we've been taught to chase, as though it's something someone else can give us. But true closure comes from within. It's the moment you decide, I don't need an apology. I don't need explanations. I am enough as I am, and I can move forward without them. Letting go isn't about forgetting or pretending the hurt didn't happen. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of the past. It's about refusing to let someone else's actions define how you feel about yourself or how you live your life. And here's the most beautiful part: when you let go, you create room for something new. New growth, new opportunities, new connections, ones that align with the person you are becoming, not the person you were when you were hurt. So if you find yourself stuck in the endless, why take a breath? Redirect that energy inward. Focus not on understanding them, but on understanding yourself. What do you need? What are you ready to let go of? What kind of life are you ready to create from this moment forward? Because ultimately this isn't about them. It's about you and your journey toward peace, strength, and wholeness. And that journey begins not with answers from the outside, but with a quiet resolution within: I will rise from this stronger and freer than before. When someone cheats or hurts you, the natural instinct is to react. A surge of emotion floods through you: anger, sadness, disbelief, and it demands to be released. Perhaps you feel the urge to confront them, to call them out, or to make them understand the depth of the pain they've caused. But here's the paradox of reacting: the more you let the actions of others dictate your response, the more power you give them over your peace. The key is to understand that your reaction is entirely within your control. Yes, the initial wave of emotion may feel uncontrollable: anger rising like fire, or sorrow pulling you under like a tide, but what happens next is up to you. You don't have to act on every feeling. Emotions are signals, not commands. They point to something within you that's asking for attention. But they don't have to steer the wheel. Think of it this way: when someone betrays or hurts you, it's like they've thrown a stone into the calm waters of your being. The ripples are inevitable at first, but if you keep feeding those ripples through obsession, through revenge, through endless replaying of the event, you turn them into waves. And those waves crash over you, disrupting your peace and clarity. The stone is no longer the problem. It's the energy you've given it that's causing the storm. What if, instead of reacting impulsively, you paused? What if you allowed yourself the space to feel what you need to feel without immediately acting on it? This isn't about suppressing your emotions, but about giving them room to breathe without letting them take over. When you pause, you create the opportunity to respond rather than react. And a response, unlike a reaction, comes from a place of thoughtfulness and strength. A response asks, what will serve me best in this moment? Sometimes the best response is no response at all. Silence can be the most powerful statement you make. When you choose not to engage, you reclaim your power. You refuse to let someone else's behavior pull you into their chaos. This doesn't mean you're ignoring what happened. Quite the opposite. It means you're choosing to process it in your own way, on your own terms. It means you're valuing your peace over the fleeting satisfaction of lashing out. And in that choice you find strength not to be led by the hurt, but to lead yourself through it. But let's not confuse non-reaction with passivity. This isn't about allowing others to walk over you. It's about recognizing that your energy is precious and deciding where to invest it. Instead of reacting outwardly, turn inward. Use that energy to heal, to reflect, to grow. Let the situation become fuel for your transformation rather than a chain that holds you back. When you choose this path, you might find something unexpected clarity. You begin to see the situation for what it is rather than what your pain has amplified it to be. You see the person who hurt you not as a villain, but as someone acting out of their own flaws, fears, or limitations. And while this doesn't excuse their actions, it can help you let go of the need to carry their burden. In the end, reacting is easy. It's instinctive. But responding? That requires courage, self-awareness, and a deep commitment to your own peace. It's a choice to rise above, to not let someone else's actions define your own. So when you're faced with hurt, remember this: your greatest power lies in how you choose to move forward. Not in what you say to them, but in what you say to yourself. You reclaim what was always yours, your strength, your dignity, and your peace. When someone cheats or hurts you, the pain they cause can linger like a shadow, casting doubt on everything you thought you knew. You may find yourself questioning not just the person, but your own worth, your judgment, and even the fairness of life itself. It's easy to feel as though something precious has been taken from you, a piece of your trust, your confidence, or your joy. But what if, instead of dwelling on what was lost, you shifted your focus to what remains? In every experience, even the painful ones, there is something left behind. There is a lesson, a seed of wisdom, and an opportunity for growth. This isn't about minimizing the hurt or pretending it didn't happen. It's about recognizing that life doesn't leave you empty-handed. Every moment, good or bad, adds something to your journey. The key is to uncover it. When betrayal strikes, it can feel like the ground beneath you has cracked open. Yet in that fracture there is room for new growth. Imagine a tree that survives a storm. The winds may break a branch or two, but in time those wounds heal, and the tree grows stronger, more resilient. In much the same way, the experiences that test you also offer the potential to deepen your understanding of yourself and the world. Take a step back and ask, what is this teaching me? It could be teaching you the importance of boundaries, the strength of your own resilience, or the necessity of self-love. Maybe it's showing you that not every connection is meant to last forever, and that's okay. Some people come into your life as blessings, others come as lessons. Either way, they leave you with something that can help you on your journey if you're willing to see it. But to reach this place of understanding, you must first be willing to let go of the narrative that keeps you tied to the pain. It's tempting to replay the hurt, to dissect every word, every action, trying to find an answer that will satisfy your sense of justice. Yet the truth is, no amount of revisiting the past can change it. The only thing you can change is how you carry it. Instead of carrying the weight of the hurt, choose to carry the wisdom it has given you. This shift doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you decide to no longer let it define you. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "How can I grow because of it?" When you approach life this way, even the most difficult moments become part of a larger picture, a picture that is still being painted. You realize that the hurt was not the end of your story, but a chapter that is shaping you into a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate version of yourself. This doesn't mean the pain will disappear instantly. Healing is a process, and it takes time. But as you focus on what you can learn and how you can grow, you'll notice something remarkable. The pain starts to transform. It softens, it shifts, and eventually it becomes a source of strength. You may even find yourself feeling gratitude not for the hurt itself, but for the person you've become because of it. In the end, the greatest victory over betrayal isn't in getting even or proving someone wrong. It's in rising above, in using the experience to become more of who you truly are. The person who hurt you may have taken something from you, but they cannot take your power unless you give it to them. And when you choose to turn your pain into wisdom, you reclaim that power in the most profound way. So, when life tests you, when someone breaks your trust or wounds your heart, remember this: the hurt may have entered your life, but it doesn't have to define your life. You are the one who gets to decide what it will mean, and in that decision lies your freedom. When someone cheats on you or inflicts harm, the instinctive response is often to demand an explanation or seek some form of justice. It feels natural to want to confront them, to make them see the depth of the hurt they caused. But what if the most powerful response isn't to react outwardly at all, but to redirect your energy inward? What if the most profound act you could take is to rise above the situation entirely, not through denial, but through transcendence? You see, every action someone takes, especially those that wound others, comes from their own inner struggles. People hurt others not because they are strong, but because they are lost. Their actions are often reflections of their fears, insecurities, or desires. When someone cheats, lies, or betrays, it reveals far more about who they are than it does about who you are. And if you allow their behavior to dictate your sense of worth, you're handing over control of your inner peace to someone who may not even have control over themselves. Imagine for a moment that you're standing by a still pond. Someone throws a stone into the water, and it ripples outward, disrupting the calm surface. You might be tempted to toss your own stone in response, to counteract their action, but doing so only adds to the chaos. Instead, what if you waited, allowing the ripples to settle on their own? In time, the water returns to its natural state of stillness. This is how you must approach moments of betrayal or harm, by choosing not to add more ripples to the disturbance. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you aren't hurt. Quite the opposite. It means acknowledging your pain, honoring it, and then releasing it. Holding on to resentment or anger only anchors you to the very person who caused your suffering. It binds you to the moment of betrayal, replaying it over and over in your mind. But when you choose to let go, you free yourself from that cycle. You reclaim your emotional freedom, your peace, and your power. It might sound counterintuitive, but forgiveness is not about excusing someone's actions. It's about liberating yourself from the weight of their choices. Forgiveness is an act of strength, not weakness. It's saying, I will not allow your actions to define how I feel about myself or dictate the course of my life, and this doesn't require a grand declaration or even a conversation with the person who hurt you. Forgiveness happens within you. It's a quiet decision to prioritize your well-being over your anger. Of course, letting go doesn't mean you have to welcome the person back into your life. Boundaries are essential. They protect your energy and ensure that you don't continue to be a receptacle for someone else's turmoil. Letting go is about finding peace, not reconciliation. It's about moving forward without carrying the weight of the past. When you shift your focus away from the person who hurt you and toward your own healing, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of their actions and start seeing yourself as the architect of your own life. You realize that while you cannot control what others do, you have absolute control over how you respond. And in that realization lies a kind of power that no one can take from you. This journey of rising above isn't always easy. It requires patience, courage, and a willingness to confront your own emotions. But as you move through it, you'll discover a strength you didn't know you had. You'll see that the experience, as painful as it was, has shaped you in ways that make you more compassionate, more self-aware, and more aligned with your true self. So when you're faced with betrayal or hurt, remember this: you are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you choose to grow because of it. You have the power to turn pain into wisdom, resentment into freedom, and wounds into healing. And in doing so, you rise not above the person who hurt you, but above the hurt itself. And that, my friends, is where true freedom lies.